that allows everyone, men, women, families, couples, fraternity brothers.
That everything is listening and watching anyway.
All right, I think it's recording now. I saw like a recording paused.
Yeah, it says, oh, okay, yeah, it says this meeting is being recorded. Okay. So it must be maybe, yeah, I'm not sure how or why, but we are recording. And so I think there's a notification for everyone to acknowledge that. And then so we will get started in about 2 minutes. And at that time, we're actually going to start in about 7 minutes because we're going to give 5 minutes for folks to start jumping on. And usually right at the top of the hour, you start to get all of the notifications for admittance. Tani, can we hear you? It looks like you're not on mute, and we see your icon, and we'd love to. So Tani is the one that looks like he might be recording. I'm a little confused here. Anyway, we'd love to hear from you, Tani. I want to know about this icon, this image you have up here. Oh, I see your. Hello? Can you, who just jumped on? Thank you for showing your face.
Hey, Diana,
Tell
how
me,
are you?
pronounce your first name, last name. I don't want to mispronounce it.
My last name is my first name is MT Mwakilasa. Or
Mkwasa?
Mwakilasa.
Wakilasa. Wakilasa.
Yes.
Gotcha.
Yes, I'm calling from Apialishe Superfood.
Okay.
But I'm originally from Tanzania, East Africa.
Awesome. Well, is this the first time you've been on this call?
Yes, this is my first time. I'm
Very
excited.
nice. Welcome, welcome. So while we're waiting for people, and I see they're starting to jump in, while we're waiting for people, I just want to welcome you to the Transportation Logistics Committee second Tuesday Zoom. We've been doing this for a few years now, fairly consistently, and we always feature great speakers, members like Keith Wilson, but also sometimes people that are just in the industry and sector, civically engaged leaders, corporations. It's a wide range because transportation logistics, of course, has a lot of tentacles. So we jump on second Tuesday from 11 to 12. And one of the things I like to do while we're waiting for everybody to get in and get settled is to make sure that at least one member, if not several, have a chance to say who they are and what they do. And so this week, I'm going to ask Teresa, or this month, I'm going to ask Teresa to say hello and tell everybody. I know you're starting your business. Tell everybody what you aspire to do, and let's see if there's anybody here that might be able to help you. And I invite everyone to put their contact information in the chat so that we can help each other and stay connected. So Teresa, it is all yours.
Hi, everyone. Good morning. Good morning. I'm Teresa Edwards, and I started my, I guess, last mile courier service. I have a cargo van starting now. Well, now I have a cargo van. The name of my company is Sure Haul Logistics. So the goal is to, of course, expand. I would be honest, it's like when I got out of the military, my first job was work as a courier working for FedEx, and I swear that was probably one of my best jobs because of the, I guess, the freedom of nobody on your neck. So found myself exploring it again due to my job was eliminated. I was at Warner Brothers Discovery. So, but that freedom is still calling me. So, but if anybody have any recommendations or whatever, please hit me up. I can drop my email. That'll probably be best. But
Yeah.
thank you for this opportunity.
Absolutely. Thank you for being on. While we're still letting people on, is there anybody else who'd love to share a little bit about what they do and what brings you here and how this community might help you?
I will.
Go for it.
So my name is Patricia Walker, I'm the owner of Iconic Logistics Services. I am actually out of Florida. I'm just starting the Atlanta Black Chambers, and I'm actually impressed. We do not have anything like this here. And so to see the commitment and encouragement from all of us to help one another has really like impressed me very well. But obviously, I'm a nationwide freight transportation, rail, warehouse, and storage company. I opened my own brokerage a year ago. Before then, I was working for someone else as a freight agent. So I'm really actually to just getting things started and put together, and any support anywhere, any help is welcomed. And I did put my information in the chat.
Thank you. Thank you. We have time for one or two others. You can just jump in. Are you a member with us, Katricia?
Yeah, I joined Atlanta Black Chamber probably 2 months ago. And
Nice.
so coming there for the global conference and been on a lot of Zooms, like I said, I'm just really impressed.
Very nice. Very nice. Let's do one more, and then I actually want to make a couple of announcements and we'll get started.
My name is Mwakilasa. I'm very new here in Atlanta. I've been here 2 months.
Oh, wow.
And I used to live in Cleveland, Ohio, via from Tanzania, East Africa. We just launched a business called Afyalishe Superfood at Invest First 2 weeks ago. And I also joined Atlanta Black Chamber of Commerce 3 weeks ago. So I'm brand new, and I make superfood all the way from Tanzania. It's a mix of 28 different type of ingredients, 28 different type of plant-based seeds, herbs and spices. You take a teaspoon, you get everything what you need for your body for a day for less than $2 a day.
Love it. We need that. All right. So I think Will Freeman, I see you just jumped in. Hello, my friend.
Hello, good morning.
Good
How you guys
morning. Good
doing?
morning. Yeah. So we
Happy
were just
Friday.
doing a quick round of intro. I said that was going to be the last one, but I can't resist because I'm so glad you're here. Do you want to tell everybody what you do?
Yeah, hey, good morning, ABC family. Thank you, Diana, for that. Happy Friday to everyone. My name is Will Freeman. I am CEO and founder of F5 Global Solutions. And what we are is a freight brokerage company that handles import and export from domestic to international waters. We've been in business since 2018, headquartered here in McDonough, Georgia. I also serve as a consultant for the Honey Pot Company as well, setting up international shipments for that company. So that is a bit about me and my spill.
Thank you. Thank you.
Happy
Thank
to
you.
be here.
Glad you are here. All right. So before we get started in introducing our speaker, I just want to tell you we have a really amazing lineup of speakers for the rest of the year. So let's see. Next month, we are going to be talking with a woman who is, she is learning how and in the progress of creating a truck court. So it's really sort of a full service truck stop, and she wants a network of places where folks can drop off their trucks while they're en route, and it's a truck stopping station, but she wants to elevate it so that it actually serves the professional truckers better than what exists on the market right now. So that's a great intersection between our industry and real estate, which is what brings me to this position. Most of you all know I'm a commercial real estate broker and I focus on industrial warehouses. So I'm excited about that. And then we're going to have our very own Will Freeman, who's here, and we're going to talk about the logistics of data centers. So if you know anything or don't know anything about data centers, that's all the reason to show up in November. And he is going to conclude our year. We take off in December and just go to bed for a while. And then we pick up again at the end of the year. So I just wanted to announce that. The other thing that's really exciting in October, and please write this on your calendar, on October 18th, we will be taking a trip to Uncle Nearest Museum. I don't know if this comes in backwards, but this is my Uncle Nearest mug. I don't know if you can see it. But we have a member who's a motor coach carrier, and he does tours. And so he has organized a trip for this committee and anybody else who wants to join to take a road trip up to Uncle Nearest Museum, which is in Shelbyville, Tennessee, but it's not very far from here. And so it'll be a day trip, and it's going to be a great time, a tour of the museum, whiskey tasting, network. We'll hang out at the longest bar in the world, I think is what they are promoting it. And it's going to be a great day. So just mark your calendars, October 18th. ABC will start to promote it next week. So you should start to see it in the newsletters. We will likely talk about it a couple of times on Tuesday Talk. I'm continuing to let folks in. Okay, so without further ado, allow me to introduce Keith Wilson. He is a member of the Chamber. We're extremely happy to hear about how he has founded his company, Higher Level Logistics, and created a strong partnership with Amazon. We're going to learn from him, but I just want to say that the way I met Keith is the way I met a number of you, where he said, hey, I have this transportation business. What can I do with and for the Chamber? And I said, well, why don't you start off by being a speaker on our second Tuesday Zoom call? So this is also an open call for you. If you have a well-established business and you have something to share and you want to talk about it and let people know what you do, please do reach out to me. I'll put my contact in the chat so that next year we can line you up to speak, as Keith will do this morning. So Keith, all yours.
Yeah, thank you, Diana. Thanks for having me. And good morning, ABC fam. As Diana mentioned, my name is Keith Wilson. I am president and founder of Higher Level Logistics. We are a certified Amazon freight partner. So essentially what that means is that we partner directly with Amazon to pull loads directly for them. So I manage essentially a fleet of Amazon branded trucks, 18-wheelers. So if you have been on the highway, on the road, and you've seen not the blue Amazon vans, but the blue Amazon 18-wheelers, that's me, right? And so I'm one of the brokers or carriers, I should say, that's doing that based out of the Atlanta area. So I started my company essentially in 2023, September 2023. And the way that I kind of maneuvered it and got on with Amazon was actually through another program that they have. So gosh, about 2.5 years ago, I met another sister that was working with Amazon. She is in their what they call DSP program, so Delivery Service Partners. So those are the blue Amazon vans that you see all around the road. So she mentioned that she's managing a fleet of those, her own company or whatnot, and she partners with Amazon. And I just thought that was really so cool, right? Just so amazing, so interesting. I wanted to learn more about it. And so I, applied for that particular program, right? It's an actual program you have to apply for. And I didn't get accepted. And so I'm like, oh, okay, cool, maybe another day. But just doing my research around Amazon, around the logistics space, I noticed that they had a new program that was starting up, which is called the Amazon Freight Partner Program. And so I took a lot of interest into it because I've always had an interest in the logistics space, right? Ever since COVID, you saw that logistics was still humming, right? Trucks were still on the road, product was still getting delivered. And so just seeing such a recession-proof type of industry naturally made me want to get into it. And so I looked up more about this Amazon Freight Partner Program, and I just became enamored with really just the opportunity. And so what it is essentially an accelerated program, like an accelerator program, to which they bring you in, they interview you, and sometimes they reach out to you to try to recruit you. And once they bring you in and you pass all of the phases of the interview process, you get vetted, and they kind of give you the stamp of approval. They essentially kind of set you up as a carrier, right? And so I had to go in and create my own company, create my own authority, get my own DOT number, just get everything that you need to get to be certified as a carrier to run freight, intermodal freight throughout the U.S. regionally. And so I had to do all of that work. Amazon helped kind of guide me through the way, but for me, a lot of it was just kind of learning on the fly because I knew nothing about the industry beforehand. I knew nothing about, CDL or CDLA licensing. I knew nothing about FMCSA. I knew nothing about just how much of a regulatory hurdle it can be to get into this business and stay in this business, and even just recruit drivers for this type of business, right? And so I had to learn everything in a very, very short amount of time. But once we were able to get everything going, get all of the kind of documentation, certification, legally that we needed to go, Amazon pretty much set us up. And so the great thing about being in this type of program and work with Amazon is that you don't have any more customers but Amazon, right? You only have one customer, that's Amazon, and that's serving them and that's moving the freight from them for them. And so they set us up with 3 tractors. And so started out with 3 tractors in September of 2023. Is when we started to carry our first load. And from there, we've grown to about 20 tractors. And so it's been a really unique learning experience since we started, not knowing anything about this business. I started with really just a couple of friends of mine that knew also nothing about this business. But we had to really kind of piece together a very streamlined and scalable operation very, very quickly. And so given the fact that we started in September of 2023, that was right at the time of peak season. Which some of you in the industry may know about, right? So peak season is really when you get ready for the holidays, right? So that Thanksgiving, Christmas time, when pretty much a lot of freight and a lot of products are moving on rail, they're moving through water, and they're moving on the roads. And so we had to really scale up really, really quickly from an operational standpoint to be able to handle all of the volume that was going to come our way during peak season. And like I mentioned, we had no experience in this. And so we had to learn everything as far as how to recruit drivers, how to kind of vet the drivers, when it came to making sure that the drivers would be good to get on the road, right? Checking their licenses, checking their med cards, making sure that they did the drug tests, right? We had to put together a full scale kind of staffing operation in a very short amount of time. To start to staff up these trucks that we were getting from Amazon and to essentially take on the contracts that Amazon was giving us. And so when we kind of started, right, like I said, we didn't really know much of what we were doing, right? And so we really had to learn a lot on the fly. And the thing that you really learn from Amazon is that they are very, very big on safety. They're extremely big on safety. And so we had to make sure that all of the things that we were teaching our drivers and really just the culture of the company that we were trying to build very early on was one that was deeply, deeply rooted in safety. Because as us, the carriers, even though we were driving these Amazon branded trucks, it was still our DOT, right? My DOT. In a sense, right? And so from a standpoint of the feds, right, they're not looking at Amazon, they're looking at Higher Level Logistics, which I own. And so I had to make sure that I was preaching safety to all of my drivers that are coming in, making sure that they knew not to take any kind of risks, making sure that they knew, hey, the way that you drive for an Amazon freight partner is totally different from how you may drive for I guess, more traditional commercial trucking company, because, we take every precaution, right? When we don't necessarily do things the way that a J.B. Hunt or another major company may do, right? And so with all of that in mind, like I said, we had to scale up really, really quickly. And so we went from 3 trucks in September to about, let's say, 10 trucks roughly October, November. And then let's say December, January, we got up to about 15 to 17 trucks. And like I said, now we're at about 20 to 21 trucks. right at the moment. Now, when you think about kind of the coverage that we handle, and so our yard is based out of College Park. And so our yard is down there. And we share that yard with other Amazon Freight partners. So it's about 5 of us in total that cover really the Atlanta area. And we go all over the place. And so I've had trucks go as far north as Indianapolis, Indiana, as far south as Miami, and as far west, I would say, as probably Little Rock, Arkansas. So we do things regionally, right? We're not necessarily over the road. We're more of a regional operation. But with that, we have to be really unique in how we kind of approach the market, how we bring in drivers, the types of drivers that we're looking for. Are they coachable? Or are they kind of set in their ways? But also, what is their driving history and record, right? Are they safe? Have they been safe? Are they trainable and coachable when it comes to safety? Because we have a lot of technology in all of these trucks that we've got on the road. I mean, we've got cameras, we've got live ELDs, we've got iPads, we've got sensors all over these trucks. And so I have a very good idea of where my trucks are at all times and where my drivers are at all times. And so, like I mentioned, safety is a huge, huge part when it comes to partnering and continuing the partnership with Amazon. Another part that's, I say, equally as big when it comes to working with Amazon is just being on time and taking the work that they give you, right? We get judged on a scorecard every week from Amazon, my team and I do, when it comes to safety, right? So how safe we are and whether any accidents or any drowsy driver type of situations that the camera may have picked up. But we also get scorecarded pretty heavily when it comes to being on time. And that means being on time to the yard to start the shift, but also being on time to all the multiple destinations that the drivers are going to, right? And so with that, you have to make sure that we're hiring drivers that are really good at pre-planning their routes and knowing where they need to go, when they need to stop, that are good at being able to manage their clock as well, right? I mean, those in this business know that, drivers, when it comes to 18-wheelers, can only drive so many hours in the day, right? And so making sure that they're optimizing their clock, making sure that they're getting enough rest, and just making sure that they're able to meet the needs of the moment, and also, be safe on the road and not taking any chances, right? So that means, like I said, getting to their destination on time, because, the way we set up and we're working through Amazon, we don't pay drivers for a per mile basis, which is kind of an industry standard. So a lot of drivers that come to us are a little bit surprised. We pay hourly, right? We offer benefits. We offer 401k, right? And so we do things a little bit differently, right? To try to make sure that we are bringing in a good quality of driver, but also making sure that we retain the drivers as well, right? We also offer yearly bonuses, like retention bonuses, things of that nature, just to make sure that we're bringing in the cream of the crop, and to make sure that they are staying with us long term. We found much more success with those drivers that have been with us for a year or two, going on 3 years now, as opposed to those that just kind of come and go, right? Looking for just a quick stop, a quick paycheck, and just want to go. We've also found a lot of good success when it comes to drivers that are like veterans. And so we've been really aggressive in trying to recruit and hire veterans because we know that they're going to be prompt. We know they're going to be on time. We know that they're going to take care of the trucks. We know that they're going to be really clean about the trucks, which is also another big piece as well, making sure that you're taking care of the trucks. And so, we have to be very, very cognizant of the people that we're bringing in. Some have, already the habits that we need to be successful, but some of them also have a lot of, old habits from other companies, right? That we essentially have to kind of help coach them out of for them to be successful here at Amazon. And so for us, it's been certainly a learning journey. It hasn't been all blue skies and rainbows. We've certainly had some moments of duress and some kind of difficult moments. But you can imagine that working with a conglomerate like Amazon in this space, right? They are the customer. And so you have to acquiesce to kind of what they need and how they need it. And so, we try to be, it's like I said, as aware of that as possible, but also making sure that we're managing our business the best way we can, right? And so when we have opportunities that we need to push back on Amazon on certain things that they may put down the pipeline, certain policies they may put in place, we push back. And they're really good about listening to myself and other carriers, getting our feedback, and really trying to institute some of the changes that, we think could really help make just the relationship and the partnership, I should say, much better, right? Much more interesting, right? And so for us, like I mentioned, it's been almost 3 years now. And so it's been really, really a learning opportunity for us. I would say some of the things that, we typically look for as a business that, I've mentioned to even Diana before is, we as independent carriers through Amazon also have, needs that we outsource as well, right? And so when it comes to maintaining a fleet of trucks, when it comes to hiring drivers, right, these are also like independent services that we sometimes outsource, right, and that we pay for, right? And so, I pay some staffing companies to help me find drivers. I've got a homegirl that just acquired a cleaning business here in Atlanta, and I was her first customer. She brought her team out to the yard and they cleaned all of our trucks, the inside of all of our trucks, right? And that's a service, a reoccurring service that, I pay for, right? And I'm happy to pay for because for us, we have to keep the trucks clean and make sure that it helps us with retention and keeping drivers in, keeping the outside of the trucks clean, right? I've hired external mobile cleaners to come and clean the outside of the trucks. And paid them. And other carriers like myself on the yard have also hired some of these services. Even maintenance workers, right? We have on staff, on-site maintenance at the yard, but there are some little things that we can take care of ourselves, right? When it comes to mud flaps or maybe refrigerators inside the sleepers or TVs that are broken in the sleepers. Microwaves that are broken in the sleepers, right? Any kind of mechanics or handyman that are able to fix those types of things. I have, brought them in, hired them to kind of fix some of those things for us individually, as opposed to having to go and buy an entirely new TV or a new refrigerator or a new microwave, right? And so, these are services that, for me, it's really important to try to make sure that I'm outsourcing and getting from the community, right? Rather than just, let's say, finding some kind of institutional company that does all of these things, right? And so, there's certainly opportunities. Yep.
Let me cut you off for 1 second because I see Monique Davis has a question. Is it okay to take a minute and grab her question?
Please. Go for it.
Go ahead, Monique.
Hey, good afternoon. Well, good morning still. Some really great information. So thank you for that, Keith. I did have like a two-folded question. So the first part of the question is, you talked about your partnerships, and I came about 10 minutes late, so sorry for being tardy, but I may have missed this. How did you actually acquire the trucks for Amazon? How did you acquire that partnership? And then the second part of that question is, do you partner with smaller companies that are delivery service providers and things like that? Do you subcontract? Do you partner with them? And if so, how do we connect? That's it.
Monique, put information in the chat for sure as well.
Yeah, gotcha. Two good questions. So for the first question, how we got started in the partnership with Amazon. So I found this opportunity basically through a friend of mine that is running a fleet of Amazon vans. And so she told me about that business, and I thought that was really, really interesting. And so that's a formal program called the Amazon Delivery Service Partner Program. So look it up. It's a program that you can actually apply for. And either be admitted or not based on kind of Amazon's need geographically. And so kind of parallel to that, I found out that they had this Amazon Freight Partner Program, which is basically the same type of thing, but instead of managing a fleet of vans, you're managing a fleet of tractor trailers, right? So 18-wheelers, so big trucks. And so I applied for that program. And I was admitted into that program after going through a pretty rigorous kind of interview and vetting process for the most part. And so that's essentially how I got started with the program. Now within the program, the great thing about it is that you don't have to purchase the trucks. You're essentially leasing the trucks from Amazon. And so they provide the trucks. They also provide the maintenance on the trucks. But you are basically providing the people, right? And so you're essentially, for all intent and purposes, a staffing company, right? That manages the drivers, manages the trucks, manages the routes through Amazon, and you have to do it as safely and as efficient as possible. So that's essentially how we got started. Now, to your second question, as far as do we outsource to kind of third party, I guess, last mile companies, we don't. What we do is we do all drop and hook. So that just basically means that my people, they go to the yard, they get in a truck, they go to a plethora of Amazon distribution centers. They pick up trailers, they pick up containers, whether it's at the distribution center or off the railway, and they take them to the next location, right? They're not taking anything out of those trailers or those containers. They're just basically picking them up and dropping them off. And so for us, there's no opportunity to really have that last mile piece into it. And so I know we were speaking to a sister on here earlier that's kind of in that last mile space. What I would recommend is that if anybody that does have a fleet of vans and drivers that's looking to kind of get into that last mile space, you check out Amazon Flex. So that is an independent service or program that they have for people that have their own fleet of vans or cars or trucks that are looking to do delivery services for them. But yeah, we don't get into that particular space for the last mile.
All right.
Rosalind has a question as well. Go for it, Rosalind.
Sorry, I was trying to come off mute. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Hi, Keith. It's really good to have you on this morning. I actually interviewed with Amazon for the DSP program last year, and I was not accepted. I was very disappointed. I felt like the interviews went really well, made it actually to the last phase, and then was not selected for the program. But then in the last month or so, they've been emailing me, encouraging me to reapply for the program. So I'm just curious, having gone through both interview processes for both the DSP and the Freight Partner Program, can you share some insights as to the differences between the two? And do you feel like you're in the right place in the Freight Program versus the DSP program?
Yeah.
Hold on, before you answer that, just for the sake of the audience, Rosalind and Keith, can you clarify the acronyms that you're using? You said DSP.
Yeah, so the DSP is the delivery service partner that Keith referenced, where you're driving the Amazon vans, versus the Freight Partner, where you're in the 18-wheelers. So.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. So to answer your question, Rosalind, I would say the interview process is fairly similar because what Amazon is looking for is certain qualities are transferable, but also coachable and flexible as well, because things are constantly changing in their space, and you have to be able to change at a whim, right? And then move people, right? Move a mass of people to change with you, right? People that you're leading. So I'll say the interview was fairly similar. The difference really for me was really kind of the mindset with regard to how I was approaching the business on the Amazon Freight Partner side, as opposed to the DSP side, the Delivery Service Partner side. On the Delivery Service Partner side, right, I could hire anybody on this call right now as a driver, right? And they have pretty elaborate training process for new drivers. The program is much more established, right? It's been going on for a much longer period of time than the Freight Partner Program. Whereas with the Freight Partner Program, it's still a few years new, right? But it's much more highly regulated based on the industry that we're in versus the DSP industry, right? Because those DSP, those vans, like, they're not regulated, right? They're just vans that you can go and buy anywhere and run freight, right? And so I can hire anybody to do those. But when it comes to the Freight Partner Program, right, we're talking about 18-wheelers, right? And so with that, you already have to have a certain type of driver, right? They have to have a CDLA license, right? They have to, for us, have at least a year of experience, right? Their record when it comes to accidents or safety is much more monitored and highly monitored and viewed, just from a kind of federal standpoint, right? And so there are a lot more kind of processes that you have to go through to hire those types of people, but also to run that type of business. And so I had to kind of take all of those kind of variables into kind of the interview process through the AFP program, as opposed to the DSP program, right? And so that also affected kind of the business case that I had to put together, right? And so I didn't mention earlier, but in the whole interview process, either for the DSP program or for me, the AFP program, you have to put together like a business proposal, like a business case, right? Financials and everything, right? What the name of your company is, what it would be, kind of the culture of the company, vision statement, mission statement, and then you have to put together a pro forma statement on the business. And this is without really knowing the financials of the business and what it could actually be, right? And so you're making a guess, right? And so for me, I saw that there was a big differentiation between the business kind of program or business plan I put together for my DSP business versus my AFP business, where I had to put a lot more money into training, probably on the DSP side, as opposed to the AFP side, because CDLA drivers, they know how to drive the van, know how to drive the trucks. But on the AFP side, I had to kind of allocate a lot of money to more so like insurance, right? Benefits, things of that nature, even pay, right?
Yeah.
Because I have a rate card that, I have to pay out. But with that, right, just kind of the pay for this area for CDL drivers is usually higher, right, than kind of what the rate card that Amazon gives me will allow. And so I have to kind of manage that piece too, right? And so for me, the biggest difference throughout the entire kind of interview process was really just, for me, the business plan, because they're looking for similar qualities when it comes to the people, but the business plan, I think, is what will make or break you.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. No problem.
Keith, I have a question related to the business planning of it. Do you use a factoring company, or does Amazon help manage the flow of cash and accounts receivable?
No, so that's all you. That's all you, right? So we don't use a factoring company. The great thing about this relationship with Amazon is that you become pretty liquid pretty quick. And so we had to go and set up our own business bank account and everything, right? Get Amazon tied into that. Also, we had to work with ADP to help us manage our payroll as well. And these are some of the other kind of value-added services that Amazon offers, right? Partnerships with like AFP, ADP, Fountain, which is a company that we leverage to help recruit drivers and manage the recruiting process. And so we didn't have to use a factoring company because we started running routes on September 2023. So I'd say like September 23rd, I think 27th, something like that was when we first started running routes, and we started getting paid that next week, right? And so we got pretty liquid pretty quickly. And so another thing that I forgot to mention as well is that there is kind of a cost to get into this program, right? And it's on their website, it's well publicized. For the AFP program, you have to be able to show a liquid 40 grand, right? And that's so essentially to kind of help get the business up, running, started or whatnot. And so you have to be, pretty liquid, but you get that back within weeks because Amazon, they're not going to do anything, they're going to pay on time, right? And so you never have to worry about needing to get money ahead of time, needing factoring, anything like that, because we were paid within a week of starting to run routes.
I have one more question, and then I'm gonna let you either get back to it or other people go. But in terms of sharing risk, right? Like you don't own the vehicles and they maintain them. So that's a risk on Amazon's side. And then, you have your own set of risks. Can you kind of do like, give us the balance? What are some of the things you aren't risking? Right? Like what does that balance look like? Because, this business model has a different risk profile than other business models. So can you share that a little bit with folks?
Yeah. Yeah, it's a good question because risk is really the name of the game with this particular model. So to your point, the risks that we don't incur is more of the financial risk, right? The upfront capital that's required to get into this business. If anybody wanted to scale up from 1 to 20 tractors to start their own company, that will require a lot of upfront capital. And let's just be honest, right? In our community, it's hard to come by that type of capital to start it up, even if you have tons of experience. And so there's a negated risk by being in this program, by not having to put up upfront capital to acquire trucks to get going. Also maintenance. So there's also a capital risk that's negated because we're not having to necessarily pay for the trucks to get fixed whenever they break down or something happens to them, right? And so the risks that you negate as a carrier for this program is purely from the financial side, pure capital. But the risks that you do take on heavily as a carrier on this side of the business is more the legal risk, right? Things that can also be kind of outside your control, right? And so while they are assets that are owned by Amazon, they're still ran under my authority, right? My DOT. And so you look up my DOT, you'll see my company's record, right? When it comes to DOT. So any accidents that may happen or any issues that may happen with the drivers, right? That may have some kind of legal piece to it. That's where you incur the bulk of the risk, right? And a lot of people may think, oh, well, that won't be too bad. But, there's not a second of a minute of an hour of a day that I don't have somebody on the road. And I tell anybody that's trying to get into this particular business through Amazon that that's what you're going to have to deal with. I've had plenty of nights when I'm up at 2, 3, 4 in the morning talking to my drivers because they can't get into a certain location, or they got to pay lumper fees, and we got to figure that out, or they got booted, or they've gotten into an accident, right? You name it, we've seen it, right? And so that's really kind of the risk that we take. It's more of just the liability from, let's say, a legal or accidental standpoint that for some people can be too much, and it's totally understandable. I see there was a question around independent dispatchers. So that's a really good question. So we do use independent dispatch. Now, mind you, so the dispatch that we use is a 24/7 dispatch service. And so they're actually based out of, I think, India, if I remember correctly. And so there certainly is a culture gap, right? A language gap. That could certainly be an issue, and it has been an issue for myself and other carriers that I know that use their service. But for us, the good thing about it is that they do more than just dispatching, right? And so, like I mentioned, they're 24/7. So like I said, I've always got people on the road. Only time that I don't have people on the road is Christmas, Thanksgiving, and July 4th. Those actual days. Every other day of the week, I've got somebody on the road. And so needing a dispatch service that has that flexibility and capability 24/7, 362 days of the week is important, and it really matters in this space. But they also do other services as well, right? And so they are reaching out to the drivers ahead of time to make sure that the drivers know the location of the yard, to make sure that they know what truck that they're taking, to know the time that they need to show up. They are working hand in hand with Amazon's operations center to report any kind of delays or issues with, let's say, their particular load, right? And so when I'm asleep, right, and there are some issues with regard to the load or the trailer or any kind of delay, our dispatch that we've outsourced, they're handling that, right? They're handling those conversations. One of the big important pieces is that they are taking notes and documenting notes in our system of what's going on when it comes to those particular loads that are going out, or the particular trips that we're on. So if there is an issue, right, that causes a driver to be, let's say, an hour late, then we're documenting notes, right? The dispatch team is documenting those notes and communicating that to Amazon. So Amazon sees that, hey, this load is going to be late. It's because of this particular reason that either may be outside of my control or within my control. And so when it comes to the scorecard that I mentioned earlier, they would say, okay, this is outside of Keith's control. And so we're not going to dock you on your scorecard for something that's out of your control, right? And that matters for us because the higher the grade we have on the scorecard, the higher the opportunity we have for making more money through bonuses, or also getting more trucks. And so we're actually working with them now to try to work on a program that allows us to get maybe 1 or 2 more trucks before the end of the year. And that's going to be solely dependent on our scorecard grade and how we perform as a carrier for the rest of the year, right? And so for us, when we say dispatch, when you're talking to like myself or any other Amazon freight partner, right? We're not just looking for somebody to say, hey, take this route. We're looking for somebody to do the whole gamut because all of that really, really matters for us. Well, I think you're on mute, Diane.
Thank you. Sorry about that. So I want to talk about the flip side of that. So you're rocking and rolling with Amazon. You're going to get all these trucks. Everything's going great. What right does Amazon have to say, okay, Keith, you're done? And if that were to happen, how do you take this and then leverage it into something else? So yeah, talk about the exit strategy.
Yeah, so this business is very, very cyclical. It can be up, it can be down, it can be up, and it can be down, right? And when you work with like a partner with Amazon that holds all the cards, you have to know that going into this relationship. And to your point, Anna, you have to be ready and positioned for an exit at any time. And so there's, really nothing that's stopping Amazon from pulling the plug on this entire program or pulling the plug from myself as a carrier, right? Because they own the assets, right? They own everything. They own the routes, and so they could essentially take us out the game if they wanted to. Usually, the conditions in which that has happened, that I've heard of, that has happened to other carriers, has been really where safety was a major issue, right? If they see you as a huge liability on the road, carrying their freight and their assets, then they won't hesitate to essentially pull the plug on you, right? Now, we know that accidents are a part of this industry. We don't want it to be, but realistically, it is, right? But it's really the types of accidents that happen on the road, the cadence of accidents that you have happen on the road. Were they preventable? Were they not preventable, right? All of those things matter when it comes to Amazon kind of taking a look or a view with regard to how to assess your ability to continue as a carrier, right? And so if you have 5 or 6 accidents within the span of 90 to 120 days, then that's not good, right? And when we say accidents, I mean more so serious accidents, meaning that a driver ran into somebody or flipped a truck. Or caused, a major accident, right? When it comes to accidents that weren't caused by you, right? They're a little more understanding, a little more amenable when it comes to that, because we've had incidences where somebody has ran into the back of our truck, right? And our driver was sitting there parked at the light, or our driver was making a wide right turn. They had plenty of space, and then somebody coming from the other lane ran into them. Right. And so for us, it happens. But that's why it's so important to have like the cameras and things in place and the sensors in place in the trucks that we have to help tell the full story and not just a story that we think could be heard. So knowing that, you can either be in or out of this space at any point in time, for me, it's really just about generating as much revenue as quick as possible, making this business as lean, but as efficient as possible. Because this business can be fairly low margin, right? But what Amazon typically promises us is around, well, not promises us, but says that we can make around, I think it was around 30% margins roughly on the revenue, right? And so we have to make sure that we're managing the business to get that margin. And so because this is such a quick cash flow type of business, and you have to prepare for that and make sure that you're operating lean to create that margin growth to where you can now stack money to then take this and invest in other things, right? For me, that's one of the main reasons I got into this, because I'm not a truck person. I'm not somebody that's been in this industry for a long time, but I am an entrepreneur, right? And so I saw this as a really a vehicle to get into other opportunities, right? That will allow me to generate the capital that I needed to now start other businesses, acquire other businesses that I'm actually looking at now, or invest in other businesses, right? And so this is something that you want to get in and just, this is all you do, right? You immediately have to have a way to get out and exit to get out. And for me, I'm looking at a lot of different ways, whether it's, like I mentioned, acquiring businesses, right? And so I'm currently in the process of doing that, but also starting ancillary businesses within this vertical that I can then kind of license out or offer out to, let's say, other carriers such as myself. And so that's really a cool thing about being in this kind of Amazon network, is that you're seeing some of the gaps and problems, but those gaps are opportunities that you can now have the capital to invest in to develop solutions that you can then go and monetize, because now you're already tapped into the network that has the problems, and you can actually offer the solution and start monetizing the network itself.
So I can't resist this as a segue to talk about our next speaker, which is in October, because we're talking about where do trucks go to rest when they have to get off the road and relax, and she sees a gap in the way professionals are served in terms of where these places are located and what services they have once they get there. So just a quick promo for next week. Anybody else have anything they wanted to ask? I have one more probe for you. Will, you're coming on?
Yeah, I was coming on real quick. Keith, thank you for what you've laid out in this session. Very good to see you in the business as well. I did have a question around that 30% margin. Is it capped with Amazon? I'm really approaching a question from a scalability perspective.
So the only thing that's usually capped, the margin isn't capped. You have to run your business to get that margin, right? And so it's really up to you what margin you're able to get. It could be 10%, 2%, 30%. So it's certainly not capped. What's usually capped is really the tractors that you have and the tractor growth, right? You have to meet certain metrics to be eligible for growth, and that number can go up. But typically you're capped at around a certain number of tractors until you meet certain growth metrics, and then they will, look at you for getting 1, 2, maybe 3 or 4 more tractors down the road, or getting a certain pilots that would, let's say, not increase your number of tractors, but increase the level of work that you're able to get. And so that means that, like for us, we started out just going to Amazon distribution centers back and forth and just loading freight there. Since then, we've expanded to go to the rail yards, right, and pick up containers there. Down the road, I think we'll be looking to expand to go to the port, right, and pick up extra loads there, right? And so, for us, it's just about being in a position to meet that growth, however it comes, whether it's through, like I said, ports or rail, or just more tractors for the work that goes to the delivery of those.
Yeah, thanks for that question. And Diana, real quick before we move on, this is kind of a bridge between October and November, because I don't know, Keith, you deal with any data centers for Amazon as well. I know they have that big AWS setup. I'm not sure if that's regionally. So I'll be talking data centers in November. So any ideas around that?
Nothing yet. And so we haven't heard much with regard to the data center expansion as far as how we would fit in it. But it's something that I know that they are certainly looking at and talking a lot about. And so, yeah, I'm certainly interested to kind of see where that goes. But yeah, I think there's certainly going to be a lot of excitement once those get up and going.
Perfect. Thank you. Thanks, Dan.
That's it. Those are great questions. Keith, I know you wanted to talk a little bit about technology and AI before we got off. Do you want to make that your last couple of minutes, and then we'll start heading out?
Yeah, definitely. So when it comes to some of the things I mentioned as far as like ancillary businesses or opportunities, one of the things that we certainly think about kind of in our position is how can we limit, let's say, kind of the burden on Amazon when it comes to, let's say, maintenance or accidents or things such as that nature. And so what my team and I have been doing is we've been trying to get ahead of the curve, right? And so any maintenance that's done on our trucks, we go in and we try to leverage technology and AI to audit that particular maintenance, let's say through the invoices. You think about trucking companies, they see hundreds and hundreds of invoices, probably a month when it comes to all the work that's constantly being done on those trucks. And so we have identified an issue working with Amazon in which, hey, there may be some price gouging, right, with some of that work that's being done. And so what we do is we are kind of building up a side business within the business that audits that leverages AI to essentially audit all of our maintenance invoices and everything, right? So just to make sure that the prices and the work and the labor hours and the warranty claims that are getting done are on the up and up, right? And so when you talk about how we can leverage technology and some of this newer technology that's out to kind of get into this business without necessarily having the capital to buy trucks, this is how you do it, right? You leverage some of these tools to find out how can we decrease costs, how can we increase safety, because if you want to work with Amazon, being able to decrease their costs or increase their safety, or which also limits their risk, is certainly going to be something that they would be open to hearing more and more and more about. So certainly want to make sure that, kind of plugged in some of the new technology that's out there to kind of talk about how it impacts kind of this industry, right? The transportation and logistics industry, even at a small scale. It's about, I think, 200 or so of us Amazon Freight partners nationally, right? And so we all have the same problem of tractors having issues, needing maintenance, and potential price gouging, right? And so the scalability from a monetization standpoint is certainly there. When you talk about 200 or so carriers that have about 20 to 25 trucks apiece, right? There's a lot of volume out there and a lot of opportunity for servicing this huge network and this huge fleet under Amazon's banner, whether it's through, AI type of technologies or whether it's through like a simple cleaning service, right? So certainly want to make sure that everybody on the call kind of leaves with with that hey, working with Amazon doesn't necessarily mean that you have to go and deliver packages or pull routes for them, right? Just getting tapped into that network to serve those that do is equally as important, much less risk, and can also bring a solid monetization opportunity.
All right, I got some rapid fire questions here. Who handles your risk management needs, Amazon or a contractor?
Yeah, so risk management, it's kind of a balance, right? And so we have insurance, of course, that we have to pay, right? Workers' comp insurance that we essentially have to pay and work with. We also have fleet insurance that we have to pay and work with, right? And so whenever there are accidents and accident claims, typically an insurance company that we're working with would handle all of that for the most part, right?
All right, and then the other one is, do you recommend purchasing an existing Amazon route?
Yeah, if you certainly are able to get the capital to do so, I think it's certainly a quick way to get into the business. I know from what I've heard that Amazon can be a little hesitant on when it comes to people purchasing the routes, because you're not necessarily just purchasing the routes, you're purchasing kind of the rights to the fleet as well, right? And so I've heard that can be a process, but there are certainly brokerage companies out there that are brokering Amazon routes for vans. I don't know of any for the trucks, but for vans specifically.
All right. Keith, thank you so much. That was amazing. I learned a lot. There were some your presentation was amazing, but also the questions from the audience were really make it a rich conversation. So thank you. Everybody can give Keith a shout out or hearts or whatever you do in your Zoom. Please put your contact in the chat before this conversation is over so people can contact you and so that we can keep in touch. As you know, this is being recorded, and so ABC does put the recordings on one of our channels. I think it's our YouTube channel where all of our recordings are. If you love this and just want to see it again or share it with someone else. And then Uncle Nearest, October 18th, put it on your calendar. We're going to start promoting that next week. It is a day trip on a Saturday. October 18th, it'll be from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. We're going to drive to Tennessee. We're going to learn about history. We're going to talk business. We're going to eat. We're going to sip whiskey, and then we're going to come back home. So look out for that. And then second Tuesday, Friday, 11 a.m., just like today, Will Freeman will be our speaker in November. And we have a young woman who's not part of the chamber. And she's actually, I think, in Arizona, but she has some interesting project that I think is relevant to how do you serve the professionals within the trucking industry. For the good of the order, I think that's it. It is 11:56. There is time for one more question. If somebody has something pressing they just couldn't get to. Other than that, we are done. All right. See you next time. Thanks
All right.
again, Keith. You were amazing.
Thanks, guys. Have a good one. See ya.
Bye-bye.